How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Vora Motors. I'm AJ Hart, here today with another guide to maintain your ride. For today's video, I'm going to go ahead and go over the Cruiser and the Touring and walk with you all through on how to tune the brakes on those scooters. There's nothing too difficult. It's a disc brake on the Cruiser and a drum brake on the Touring. But I know that sometimes it can be a little bit complicated as to how to actually tune those brakes, and I know that even me myself, it took me a couple of weeks before I really understood what tuning the brakes really kind of meant and how to do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and take one of our Cruisers that's got some busted up brakes and take you all through how to tune those brakes and get it all set up so that those brakes will be ready for a ride. And then I'm gonna jump over to a Touring that also has some brakes that need adjusted and walk over how to adjust those ones. It's a pretty easy video today. Let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Now let's start off with the Cruiser disc brakes. If I just spin the wheel, I'm noticing that it catches really easily, and that means that the whole brake needs to be remounted. If you look in here, you can see that the brake unit is actually grinding against the metal of the tire on the inside here. And that's not all. If you actually come back around to the front and you look closer into the disc brakes, you'll see that the disc itself is grinding against the brake pads. Again, this is really bad. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen the mounting screws, which are located on the top and the bottom of the brake unit, so that I can pull this brake unit away from the wheel and then realign the disc brake. Just grab a small Allen wrench and loosen that up a little bit. We're not removing these screws completely, we're just loosening them so that we have a little bit of wiggle room with the brake unit itself. Once I see that I've got some nice wiggle, I'm going to pull it away from the wheel, and then I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit closer. Now the best tactic you can use to realign the brake is just keep spinning the wheel while you move the brake unit a little bit left and right. The goal is to set it up so that the disc brake can spin freely without rubbing against the brakes. Once you have a spot that feels comfortable, go ahead and grab that Allen wrench and tighten it back down. Not all the way, just enough that it sits securely. Once the top is secure, I'm going to keep spinning the wheel and find out where the bottom screw needs to be tightened so that I can keep this nice and loose, so I can keep this play with the disc brake. Once I've found it by spinning the wheel and not hearing any grinding, I'm going to go ahead and tighten that down as well. And there we go. Now our wheel can spin freely, which is one step closer towards having a really nice brake. Now another issue we're having is if I actually spin the wheel and go to grab the brake, it's not stopping the wheel at all, which means that this brake line itself needs to be tightened. So I'm going to come to the arm of the brake unit and loosen this screw up here. This is essentially making it so that the brake is letting go of the brake line. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab the brake line and pull it down a little bit. What I'm doing is readjusting where the brake unit grabs on the brake line. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that screw down, and now if I spin the wheel, I notice that squeezing the brake does make the wheel stop, which is awesome. That's exactly what I'm looking for. But the job can't stop here. Let's say that you go up and start squeezing the brake, and as you squeeze it, you realize that you can still spin the wheel. What you need to do is readjust how tight the brake is being squeezed. If you come to this brake unit, you'll see this black screw here. It also has this little black fastener. If you move this screw and start twisting it so that it comes away from the brake unit, you're actually going to end up making this brake a little bit tighter, which is what we need right now. So we're going to go ahead and loosen this out and then spin this fastener all the way down. What you've essentially done is made it so that the arm is already pulling the brake unit a little bit. Now if I spin this wheel and squeeze this brake, you'll see that it locks way faster. And more importantly, it actually locks the wheel so that I can't just push it to spin it. Now let's say that you lock this up a little bit too tight, and it locks the wheel up almost immediately when you squeeze the brake. This is a really easy fix. All you're going to do is loosen this fastener and then bring this larger screw back in a little bit, essentially loosening the grip that the brake unit has. Now if you spin the wheel and grab the brake, you'll notice that it stops at a much more reasonable space. You can actually do this same little adjustment up top with the brake unit. It has the same screw and fastener setup. So if you screw it away from the brake unit, it's going to make the brake a little bit tighter. Again, you would secure that with this little fastener. But if you made it a little bit too sensitive, you can loosen that fastener, bring that screw back in, and tighten it down again. This will again adjust the brakes just so it feels perfect for you. And that, my friends, is a well-calibrated brake. Not too tight, not too loose, and most importantly, locks up when you need it to. Now if you wanted to do this same job on the back wheel, it's the exact same process. It has the same brake line, it has the same mounting screws, and it has the same adjustment screws up near the top. It even has the same handlebar system. So if you need to do this job on the back, you can follow this same guide that I use for the front. Now let's move on to the turning. The turning has a drum brake, which means that there's a lot less adjustments really necessary. If you're squeezing the brake and you notice that it can still spin pretty freely, you're actually just going to tighten this screw right here. It's really that easy. Just keep screwing that in, and as you squeeze the brake, you'll notice it feels a lot tighter. Now you can adjust it with this one simple screw back here, or you can come back up to the handlebars and adjust how sensitive the brake feels the exact same way you would adjust the brake on the cruiser. Grab this larger screw and you can twist that out and lock it down with this little fastener. The same rules still apply. The further out this screw is from the brake unit, the tighter the lock is going to feel, and the closer it is to the brake unit, the looser it's going to feel. Now before we move on, I want to talk about one quick issue that you can fix on your turning. We actually had somebody send their scooter back into us because they said that the brake wasn't working. This is because the brake line itself popped out of the correct housing. In order to fix that, what you're going to do is loosen up the screw on the end and then try to get this brake line over this housing and brought back down over it, putting the brake line through this little groove. I find that the best tactic to use is to grab the spring, pull it down just a little bit, and then bring the brake line down and over this housing. You're trying to get that brake line down through that notch right there. And there you have it. That's how you tune the brakes on our cruiser and our touring. Like I said, nothing too complicated, but especially for the cruiser, there's a lot of little things that you kind of got to understand and know which way they turn and all that mumbo jumbo. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and leave the video here today. As always, thank you all so much for watching. If you have any ideas for videos you'd like to see us do, go ahead and drop those ideas in the comments down below. If you have any questions or concerns that came up about your scooter while you were doing these jobs, go ahead and leave those in the comments down below as well. If you want to see more videos like this about your scooters, go ahead and subscribe. We release new tutorials every single week here. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that this helps, and I hope you enjoy your ride.